a lot of us in the diaspora, we do well. We have the doctors, the engineers, the accountants, the financial guys. Like we do really, really well individually in our different career. We work for all the top firms in the world: the Google, the McKinsey, the Bank of America, all of these big Fortune 500 companies. But like your point, like you said, when it comes to actually doing stuff, we don't try to build together. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that Excite Capital has been trying to navigate in the last 7 to 8 years that we've been in business, trying to make people understand that there's strength in numbers, and if we figure out how to work together, we can do a lot of great things together. And then to take us back to some of the challenges on the chain of activities when it comes to buying and owning things back home. One of the ones we just identified, we talked about, is delegating that work to a family member and how that can ruin relationship. I'm hoping that a lot of folks that have had those situations, they can understand that there's a better way. There's a better way to continue to build relationship with their loved ones back home, to tighten those relationships without bringing in investments that would tempt them to actually go and utilize their funds in a way that was not they were not supposed to use it for. So we're going to be talking about some of the solutions, I think, because you don't want to just talk about problems and now come up with solutions. So I want to move gear to when it comes to community members taking over the land. I want to talk about community members taking over the land. When you buy a property in America here, if you buy a property and you have the certificate of ownership, I think you're good. All you got to do is pay your taxes. And if you don't want to build on that land for years to come, you're good.
It's your land,
Yeah. But back home, like I told you, I had a conversation with my mom, and there's a land that I bought. I've been asking about the land. She said the land is good, and then recently she just told me that the youth of the village were like, they finished selling all the land. They went and brought a bulldozer and they broke everything down, and now they want to start reselling it to a new group of people. Also, another thing that I think a lot of diasporans face is this land that they buy. The community people resell it to different people.
They sell the same land to more than one person.
More than one person. So I think that's another big problem that that we're facing as diasporans, because we're not there. We would not be able to go in there and look at the land all the times. And most importantly, we don't have the money right away to actually go and build on it.
Yes.
That's another big problem.
Yes.
Because we buy all these lands and we keep it, and before you know it, either the community takes it or we don't have money to build it. And also another thing that I identify is that when you finally build it, the process of building it, because you only have 2 weeks in a year to visit Africa, you cannot be there to supervise a project that takes a year or 6 months to build.
Exactly.
And because of that, you have to depend on somebody else. You have to send them money. You have to call them. You have to monitor them. And it gives a lot of headache to be able to get that done. So I'm not sure if you've been in situations like that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All the time. The land I told you that I had that somebody built on, it turns out that the person that sold it to us also went back and sold it to the other person as well, although I have the legal paperwork on the land, which is like, and that's not unique to me. It happens every single time.
And because you have the paperwork, you can take them to court, but guess what happened? You stay in court forever.
Exactly. It's going to court back and forth. And again, these are the intangible cost to an investment that we do not factor in. For example, if we're going to buy an apartment community here in the US, every single dime we spent or goes into that is accounted for. And it's calculated to see, as part of that investment, to see if it's still a profitable investment
or not.
But when we do this kind of investments back home, none of that gets done, right? And you get all this cost, the time, the effort, you taking time off of work to go do that, or you try to build, or you build and it's not a valid structure, and that has happened to other people.
And I've had situations where you give, as part of the building process, okay, finally you found a land, let's assume the community people did not take it from, or the youth did not come and take the land away from you, and you finally get to a point where you're about to build it. You have only 2 weeks in a year to kick off the project and to visit back home. And he's like, I'm going to get a lawyer, or I'm going to get a brother and a cousin. Do you know I've had a situation where I've had relatives that they were really close before, but because two things. One, because that person was not having enough money by themselves, they were able to They were using the money that the other person was giving to them to build. They were not using it to build their own property. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they're like, you're back there, you have a house right that back there. I'm here, I don't have a stable place that I'm living. Why don't I get that money that you give to me? I'll buy, instead of buying a big, say 2 plots, I'll buy 1 plot for yourself, I'll buy 1 plot for myself. And you start sending the money to build, and you like, they give you an estimate to say, okay, it's going to cost you, let's say $100,000 to build everything. And that thing end up being $200,000, not knowing that you're building one for yourself.
2 houses.
So, guys, this is real situation. This is real life thing right here that we are dissecting. And I want a lot of folks that are listening to this to pay attention to. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate because a lot of you are facing the same issue. And like I said, we're going to make sure we identify how to solve some of these problems here as we continue this conversation. But these are real issues that is really, really causing the strain and actually making a lot of us back home don't want to even do anything back home. That's making us here don't want to do anything back home.
And you know, I don't think that's the answer, right?
No.
I don't think that's the answer. Honestly, like we have been blessed to travel out of Africa and been exposed to the US, other worlds, and technology, knowledge, and everything that's available out there. I believe that it's our responsibility to build Africa, to transform Africa, right?
Absolutely.
But we have to do it the right way. We have to do it in a way that does not discourage us, right? Where we do not, like, for example, I heard the story of someone that spent their whole life in the US sending money back home, building every single dime they were sending back home to a family member to build for them their retirement home. And the guy was supposedly sending pictures of this another person's property. And this guy moved back to Cameroon to look at the house, and there was no house.
Wow.
And he went like mad, like he lost his mind.
And all of that can be avoided.
No, it can be avoided, right? And I do believe that we can leverage our knowledge, our resources to rebuild, to build, to like modernize, right? But the strength is going to be, the way we do that is by working together, right? It's by leveraging each other. Absolutely. The same way things that we've been doing here in the US. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
I agree 1,000,000%. And I think that's why, because here we've been able to do what we've done here in the US. You know, we have right now about $276 million worth of assets. And the only way we were able to do that was because we came together to say, okay, we want a piece of properties here in the US. You know, we know a lot of us have individual properties, we build properties, we own properties, but can we build wealth by owning these single properties? And I think now we coming together, I'm doing it here in the US, has actually helped a lot of us see that there's a better way to building wealth than doing it individually. And I think the launch of Excite Africa is going to be helping us solve a lot of this problem. And I think we should spend some time talking about some of the things. You know, we've talked about the issues of finding land, identifying the issues with family members eating your money, the community taking over your land, why just buying land is not an investment. I think it's time for we to start having conversations about what are some of the solutions that can help folks in the diaspora own stuff back home. If they say they want to do an investment, actually have an investment that is well managed by team members that they can track monthly or quarterly, that gives them return, and they can actually use it as well when they visit. So I think it might be a good time for we to introduce some of the things that Excite Capital is doing to solve some of those problems.
You know, the interesting thing I found is that we have foreigners that invest in Africa, right?
That's true.
That invest in Africa, and that, let's say you have a foreign company that goes in and invests or builds like an apartment community or like a whole residential community in Africa. It's not that company is not owned by a single individual.
No, not
that
at all.
company has investors and shareholders, right?
Right.
That invest and they get returns.
And why can't we do that?
And they modernize Africa that way. So the question is like, why can't we do that?
Absolutely.
But so we have other people that are going into our communities and they're doing this and they're creating wealth that way, right? But for us, the way we're thinking about investment is to go about it the individual way, right? But where we have the strength,
we go the individual and we lose everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So the true solution is to start doing. It's not recreating the will. It's doing exactly what the large institutions are already doing right now in Africa. For example, Nigeria is rated right now as one of the fastest growing economies in the world.
Right.
Nigeria is rated right now as like one of the greatest opportunities in the future because of the population growth and the youthful population and the amount of opportunities that exist over there. PE firms, private equity firms are rushing
in there
to Nigeria right now. Right? To invest in different aspects, not just infrastructure, energy, and other aspects as well. Why can't we as a diaspora pull our resources together and do exactly the same thing in a structured manner like the large institutions do it? We have the knowledge. A lot of us work for these institutions.
Yeah, absolutely. And Excite Capital actually is considered an institutional investor right now in the US. I think it only makes sense to figure out a way to put us together to actually start owning back home. And a lot of you that are listening right now, I know 100% that a lot of you want to own back home. But I'm sure a lot of you are tired of the burden that comes with it, the headache, the family relationship that get torn apart, the issue of losing money, the frustration of depending on other relatives to get stuff done. And I think one of the things we're going to be sharing with you guys today is some of the things that we are doing at Excite Cap, because you can talk about a problem. I know a lot of us, we sit down behind the curtain and we talk about all the problems. We hang out together and we talk about all the problems. But a lot of us are not sitting down and coming up with a solution. Excite Capital, Excite Africa, we are going to change that. A lot of you that are watching this already know that we're doing that significantly here in the United States of America. And we are about to start discussing some of the solutions that we're going to be doing going forward to solve this problem back home.
Powerful. Yeah, this is actually what we're looking to do is like the beginning phase of a much longer journey, like of a decade, multiple decades long plan. And we decided to start our first project in Africa by doing something that limits the risk exposure to our investors significantly.
Talking about the risk, I think that's the one interesting thing. We've talked about a lot of these problems. I think maybe we should talk about some of the risk that one can mitigate. One, if you come together. Two, if you buy with institutions. Excite Capital is an institutional player right now. If you find if you find a management company that can help you run it, and then most importantly, that you own it as well, and you're able to actually use it when you visit. Can we share some more light around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're going at it by yourself, right, you have the limitations of what you could do. Now, some of you guys are big boys, so you can build a $100 million building by yourself. But for most professionals, if you're going at it by yourself, you're limited to maybe building like a duplex or like a few houses or something like that. But now, when you're able to pull resources together, you have a bunch of people who come together and we're able to pull resources together, we could build like a much larger structure, whether it's like a hotel or apartment hotel, which is what we're going to be working on. Now, we have the leverage, the resources to bring in the professionals,
right,
to bring in the same kind of management companies that the Hiltons of the world and all these other guys use, to use the same architects that the American embassy, to these other guys are using, to other American companies are using to build in Africa, to use the same contractors, use the same things that the larger institutions are using,
right,
to build, so that it diminishes the risk exposure, right?
Right.
Because one of the most powerful things that we've learned in business is it's all about the people that you work with.
Absolutely.
When you have the right professionals that are doing things the right way, you significantly decrease your risk exposure, because again, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're working with people that have already done what you're trying to do, and they're gonna do it. Now, your role as an investor or as a visionary is to hold them to the dream that you're trying to create.
Absolutely. And a lot of these investments, I think another problem that people will have is like location. Let's say real estate is location.
Absolutely.
From a risk management perspective, what are your thoughts about the location? Let's say, a lot of folks that are watching right now, they say, okay, well, I want to look for somebody that can help me handle this, where I can, own a piece of properties back, or I can own a piece of a property back home. I can get cash flow. I can use it when I visit. What are your thoughts around location when it comes to investing back home?
So I think location is very powerful, and location, one of the biggest things that comes to location is the legal structure, right, of that particular location. So you want to invest in markets that have a strong judiciary system, or like a structure where if something goes wrong, there's like a set framework on how to identify that. For example, I gave you the example of somebody building on my land. Now you have to go start talking to the judge. Maybe the guy goes and gives a bribe to the judge, and then the judge kicks your case out of court, right? Where there's nothing there, and those things happen, right? And I think that's why we strategically decided that when you come in to invest in Africa, that we'll pick a prime location, the same kind of location. Again, we are not reinventing the wheel. We're doing exactly the same thing that the large institutions are doing, because those guys spend a significant amount of money on research data in order to make investment decisions. And when they make investment decisions, they think decades,
right?
Not years.
Not years.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and one of the best ways to do that, again, just follow what the larger guys are doing. It's the same thing we do here.
Yeah.
When we go to buy a property, we see a Starbucks, we know that's a good location.
Location is growing.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Like Leslie is saying, location is a powerful thing, and all of us in the diaspora, I'm sure, if a lot of us, we want to buy a home or live somewhere in the diaspora, wherever you are, you want to find a nice location where you have good schools, less crime. There's a lot of retail around you. Things are prospering, and I think we now, since we've decided to go to Africa and solve some of these problems that we've identified. We chose Eko Atlantic.
Yes.
Is where we've chosen to kick off that institutional grade assets apartment hotel, where today, you as a diasporan, you want to be able to go home instead of going home and going to go get a hotel to stay when you visit Lagos. You can go and spend two weeks to a month on your property. In addition to that, those properties too have a capability of giving you cash flow every year.
It will give you cash flow.
It's right? Providing cash flow for you. Also, you have a third party team members,
professional management,
that are making sure the property is doing what it's supposed to do every single day.
So talk about something that fulfills the true characteristic of an investment, right? An investment is something that puts money back in your pocket.
Exactly.
Right. So it appreciates in value over time. And it has to be tax advantaged too.
Exactly. In this one, there's no taxes.
And with Eko Atlantic, you're investing in a tax-free zone. You're investing in a city, a future city that the American government is building its largest embassy in the world on.
Yep.
Right? Power of location.
Largest consulate.
Largest consulate, right? So power of location, right? If you look at the other companies that are coming into that island, it's like the large institutions of the world. So as a diasporan right now you get the opportunity to own a piece of Eko Atlantic.
Absolutely.
The city of the future.
And I think that's the only place you can think about right now in Lagos that is the city of the future, right? Where you can say, you know what, I want that prime location, I want that prime access, I want that pristine asset that when you say I own a piece of this asset, anybody you mention it to will be like, man, wow, how did you do that? And like we said, there's strength in numbers. Today, except you have significant amount of money that you want to just go buy land and then build a huge property, we have the chance and we have the access and the team to replicate what we've done here in the United States, where we've bought institutional grade assets, we manage institutional grade assets, investors are getting a lot of returns on it. We can do the same thing back home because the future is Africa. We can say we're buying all these assets in America today, but a lot of us want to go back home and own stuff as well. So what's a better place to do it than launching it in Eko Atlantic, working with the right partners to actually execute on the business plan that we have set out. Again, a lot of you that are watching, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us at Excite Capital. We definitely would love to answer a lot of the questions that you have. But do you have anything else to ask
Absolutely.
about that?
The most important, and one very, very important thing to mention is coming to this point of making this investment is not like by chance. It's not something that we just got up the next day and say we're going to start investing.
We're working on it now for about a year.
We're working on it now for multiple years. Our CEO, Dr. Oni, actually sold his house here in the US and migrated back to Nigeria to start that groundwork of building this bi-directional flow of capital. Because we got to a point where a lot of investors in Nigeria wanted to invest in their assets here in the US, But in his vision, he was, Dr. Oni said, he just doesn't see us. He just doesn't want Excite Capital to be a platform where we receiving investments from Africa, but create a bi-directional flow where diasporans too can invest back
Diasporans globally.
Yes, globally can invest back in Nigeria and can create wealth back in Nigeria, can modernize the society. And it is that vision that led us into Eko Atlantic, where we're going to be developing the first apartment hotel on Eko Atlantic. And again, it fulfills two things. It's a place for you to stay when you go back home.
Ownership.
In a prime location. And then it's an investment.
It's an investment
that puts money back in your pocket.
That appreciates in value over time.
For generations to come, that your family member cannot come in and say, I own this or that, because everything on the island is structured legally, protected. As an owner, you pass it down from one generation to another. So
and you don't get to ruin relationship with your family members. Community members don't come to bulldoze the property in one day. You don't wake up one day and be like, oh man, my land is gone. You don't have to get on calls to go to court, go to the judge and go figure out how you're going to bribe a judge, right? You don't worry about when I go home, I have to go spend time in a hotel, rent a hotel in order for me to stay back, or you go with your family. You're going to be getting a prime asset, prime location. We're going to be able to be seeing the ocean as well. But definitely, I think once we establish the project, I think we have the founder wall that we're talking about. We're going to have some people that are going to be the first founding members that we're recognizing. So we're going to have those guys. If you're interested and you have questions, feel free to reach out to us here at Excite Capital or Excite Africa. We'll take any questions. Again, right now we can give you significant details about the project, but we want people to start understanding that there's a big problem that we all are experiencing, and there's absolutely a solution. And if you're interested in having these conversations, you have an opinion about it, we'd love to talk to you about it. Because again, we're not just the only ones having these problems. A lot of us globally are having this problem, and it's time for we to start having conversations about it, start looking for solutions. Excite Capital, we're taking the charge, we're going to start solving the problem, and we encourage you to be a part of it as well.
When I see you move to Nigeria, a lot of you started reaching out. A lot of you are investors from all over the world, Australia, New Zealand, UK.
South
Africa,
started asking
Canada. When are you guys going to do a project in Nigeria? And we said, wait, we don't just go into projects without doing the due diligence and doing all the groundwork that is needed. You've been patient enough. Well, the Lumina is coming soon. Look out for more details.
Absolutely.